What's going down, D-Gens? Back again. Gonna give you some more information. Make it math related. Make it work. Sort of, at least. Really gonna be a quick one today, guys. And not gonna be like an hour long or hour plus or however long. Because I know most of you have that, ADD or whatever the hell's in the water now. So, let's get right into it. It's gonna be 2-3 things. We'll knock it out. Stick with me. First one is going to be the DVOA grades. I did finally update the grading, the report card, all that kind of stuff. Those things you didn't want to look at when you were in school. Well, I did find something, and it's something I've found in years past, and I think I've even spoken to it in years past, but we just never broke it down the way I'm going to do it right now. So, number one, the report card has switched from strictly going off coaching grades, and it is more related to DVOA and kind of a full team look now. So keep that in mind, because secondly, it's also going to, or really it's geared towards estimating and predicting how many points a team is going to score on a weekly average. So what do we need to know about that? We need to know what the average score is for an NFL football team. The average score is 21, almost 22 points per week. So on top of that, we need to know what is a upper tier, what's a high variance, so what's a low variance. So upper tier is 25 and up, or really 25 and a half. Lower tier is 18 and below. And we're going to use those as kind of our guidelines. So let's get into it. I have all 32 teams here, put in all the information from 2022. And what I did find is kind of what you would expect. The outliers, right? The teams that did really, really good or really, really shitty are exactly that. They are outliers, and sometimes the numbers work for them. Sometimes the numbers are really, really accurate. Like the Chiefs scored or averaged 29 points a game. The grading system has it at 28 points a game, right? So it's pretty damn accurate. But the other stuff, like the Eagles, the grading system averaged them at 21, and I want to say they ended up averaging something like 29, 30 points throughout the year. So it's a little bit more than a touchdown. And specifically the last 3 games, they averaged over 34 points a game. And the reason I say the last 3 games is because this DVOA grading average is not meant to be like a season-long predictor. It's meant to be week by week and use it in your handicapping for that particular week. I don't give a shit what they're going to do for the full year. I need to know what they're doing in the upcoming game. That's what this is geared towards. So that's why I like that smaller sample size of 3 games when you're looking at average scores. What I did find, and what I was talking about earlier, is that the middle, right, the average teams here, and if you're looking at a bell curve for probability distributions, the teams that are at the peak of that curve, right, and kind of within one deviation, those teams are more easily predictable, right? Or they are more predictable, I guess I should word that a little bit better. But who are those middle teams? Well, we kind of divvied it up here, and basically it's going to be teams 8 through about 20, right, out of the 32 teams. And honestly, the further you get down that list and the closer you get to the outliers on the lower end of the scale, the less accurate it becomes. So really 8 through 14 is the sweet spot. That's really where we want to be focusing our attention. But you can extend it out through 20 as long as you kind of keep that in mind of hey, this is, if it's the 20th team, it's just a little bit closer to being an outlier, right? Because you're kind of right on the fringe. So anyways, that's the math behind it. Really, a lot of these teams, I'm just going to go over what they scored and what we had them down for as far as the grading expectation. So the Bengals, my expectation was about 19. They averaged in their last 3 games 23. The Giants, my expectation was 18. They averaged 18. The Jags, we projected 16. They averaged 23. The Seahawks, we projected 16. They averaged 21. The Falcons, we projected 16. They averaged 19. The Raiders, we predicted 15. They averaged 19. The Cowboys, we predicted 15. They averaged 16. Those are all relatively accurate. Those are all within within one standard deviation. They're all really close, and that's all something you can pretty much, use at least as a starting point, if not more so, right? Once you get beyond that, you start kind of seeing some of these outliers. One of the outliers is the Vikings. We had them predicted at 15 points per game. The last 3 games, they did average 23. So 8 points, just a little bit over that deviation. The Ravens, we averaged them to be 15. They actually did average exactly 15 points per game in the last 3 points, so that one was good. The Chargers and the Packers are the two that were the most off. The Chargers, we predicted about 14 points per game. They actually averaged about 30 in those last 3 games. So that was pretty far off. Now, that is something that, the eye test can kind of tell you, like, hey, that doesn't sound right. 14 for the Chargers are a higher scoring team. Now, that being said, it does sound like it was kind of a suboptimal route that they took, which kind of gives me some hesitation for them moving forward. But beyond that, we also had the Packers, who we expected to average 14. They actually did average 27. So again, that's just the last 3 games. Now over the full year, they averaged 21, so a little bit closer to what we expected. But again, obviously that's further away than when you'd like to be. The Steelers, we expected 13. They averaged 19. The Bears, we expected 12. They did, in fact, actually average 12 points per game. But this is just kind of like to wet your whistle for right now, right? Just wanted to go over what I found, the updated information, updated numbers. We do keep track of this all year long, so we're going to keep coming back to this every week, touch on it. We'll see kind of where those middle teams are. This information here that I'm talking about with like the average teams being more accurate, like I said, that's not a 1-year thing. Going back really the full 3 years we've been doing this, it's been pretty consistent. Now we have enough numbers and enough averages as well as kind of probability numbers here to know that is more the sweet spot and to really prove that that's where we need to be focusing at. So just keep that in mind. We will move forward with that. And like I said, it gets updated every week. I share it every week. You guys can have it. If you reach out, let me know you want it. You can have all these numbers with just an email. So that's the first part. Second thing here, though, is going to actually be the Madden algorithm. So I did start putting some of this together already, and I know it's pretty early. Obviously, the Madden ratings have not come out yet for this year, but a lot of the teams, obviously, their starters aren't really changing. You maybe have 1 or 2, maybe 3 rookies starting or expected to be starters. So really going off of last year's numbers as far as a lot of the players who are still there. Obviously, kind of keeping track of who's coming, who's going is the hard part. Some rookies are being accounted for. Guys like Bijan Robinson, right, where we know he's good. We know he's probably the starter. He's getting basically ranked with like 2 points above whatever his replacement was. And that's just based off of where his replacement, or Algier, the guy he's replacing, was at like 80. You really can't go too much higher than like 82, 83 without getting into like elite tier status. So once the Madden numbers come out, for sure, then we'll go ahead and we'll update it if we need to. But as it is right now, we're just kind of making estimates, and we're using really the majority of last year's information with maybe just some slight tweaks. With that being said, even these like running backs and tight ends and stuff like that, players we think may make an impact, the Madden algorithm really takes those positions into account very minimally, right? Like the halfback position is a very small portion of the rating system. So if it's 1, 2, 3, even 10 points off, it's not really going to make a difference. So unless you project like a 99 and he ends up being like a 70, you're really not going to see a huge difference in the spread. Now, quarterbacks is a different story. I haven't gotten to that point yet. As far as like teams where I'm looking at that, what I'm doing for like CJ Stroud in this case is we're just going to go off of like a 70, which is basically bare minimum for starters in the NFL for the most part, right? It's kind of the exception to see a starter in the NFL ranked anything below a 70, unless it's like, I really couldn't even tell you, somebody like Davis Mills last year. I think he was like a 66. So same thing. with the quarterback rating, it is a little bit more difficult because that does make more of an impact. But again, unless you're going to be just completely off, right? If you're thinking that somebody's going to come out and be like a 99 and again they're like a 70, it's a big difference. So for CJ Stroud and the one in the screen that you're looking at right now, I gave him a 70, which is again just kind of bare minimum. With rookies, we don't really see them come out and give them like 90s right off the bat. We will adjust if we need to, but I believe this is going to be pretty accurate. As of right now, the Ravens-Texans game with the Madden algorithm, and again, keep in mind those grains of salt I just went over, it does show that the Ravens should really be closer to like a 10.5 point favorite. They should be on the other side of that key number of 10. Right now, most places have it at 9.5. You can actually find it at 9. A couple of places. I think DraftKings is one of them where you can find it at 9 for the Ravens. This is a play we're already on. This is something that I did kind of just to confirm what I already thought I knew. And again, we'll update a number here and there, but this is just confirming what we had said before. The Ravens minus a 9.5 or minus 9 now is an excellent play. And if you haven't already put something down on it, you definitely should. The next play is going to be the Giants play. Cowboys Giants. I think the Giants are going to just win outright. I don't think they even need the points, but for the sake of making a play, I am going to make the Giants +3 an official play for week 1. And in this case, the Madden algorithm does agree with me. They're currently, like I said, the Giants are +3. Madden is saying they should really be like +1.5, maybe +2 if you want to round it up for the full point, but more likely it should really just be like +1.5. One thing that I think is a little tougher to take into account here is that this is going to be like the 9/11 game in New York, right? So they may have a little bit more of a home field advantage for this one particular game, but I still gave them just the 2 points that we typically give them. So either way, 1.5 points is what they should be. They're getting 3. Take the points with the Giants. I do see a lot of regression coming for the Cowboys this year, and I'm saying that as a Cowboys fan. Without Kellen Moore there, I think a lot of the flaws and deficiencies of Mike McCarthy are just going to come to light even more so, and you're going to see what he does with his hands on the controls, and I don't think anyone's going to like it. So, Giants +3, week 1. I'm taking it. There's a lot of signs and factors pointing me in that direction, and this is just confirming it for me. This is one game where there's really not too many things that we're missing as far as like Madden numbers, right? Like quarterbacks are still the same. Running backs slightly changed with Tony Pollard being the lead, but we already had a grade for him. Same thing with a guy like Darren Waller, right? So there's new players, but not anything drastic, right? And especially in the onesie positions like the quarterbacks, right? So I like that the way it is. I'm taking the Giants +3. And then lastly, we did the Falcons-Panthers game. Personally, I actually like the Falcons in this game. I think the Falcons have a lot in their direction or on their side, or however the hell you want to say that. The Panthers are starting with the not only rookie quarterback, but first-year head coach with the Panthers or with the team, and that's being Frank Reich. Frank Reich, on top of that, has never been a great starter, right? Even when he was with the Colts, that was always the knock on him, is the guy started off super slow. He was like 0-5 or 0 whatever to start the year, even against shitty teams. With the Jaguars, I think you're still going to see that issue persist with him. I don't think that was a team issue. That wasn't like the Colts couldn't do it. That was the coach not having the team prepared week 1 for one reason or another. And I actually think he's a decent enough coach. He just doesn't have them ready week 1 for whatever reason. I'm thinking it's like an analytical reason. It may not be. But those reasons are my reasons for the Falcons. The Madden algorithm does show that the Panthers should only be about a 1 to 1.5 point dog. Currently, the Falcons are 3-point favorites, meaning the Panthers are 3-point dogs. So Madden is saying that you should take the Panthers and the 3 points. I can't do it. I do think the Falcons win this game. The rookie, right, Bijan, he's coming in, and traditionally running backs don't take as long to adjust to the NFL. Kyle Pitts is finally kind of rounding into form, hopefully, right? He's been there for like 3-4 years now. You have hopefully an upgrade in Ritter at quarterback. Drake London proved that he could play last year. The Panthers really offensively are going to struggle. I think Bryce Young, rookie quarterbacks, just in general, are not coming out, all guns ho. It's going to be a minute before the guy really gets adapted to the NFL. Personally, I think the Panthers are probably going to score like 14 points in this game, especially because the Falcons actually do have a pretty decent defense, and that is going kind of under the radar, but they have a lot of really solid players all over that defensive field. Actually, if you look at the grading here at the bottom, and again, this is last year's numbers, but just kind of taking a quick look at it, you don't see too many terrible numbers on here. I mean, you got 80, a 69, a 68, and a 63. Those are the lowest ones. And that is to say that this is if two defensive tackles are on the field. They typically play a 3-4. So usually one of these is not really taken into account. So you have two spots where you have like a high 60s. Everybody else on that field is around 80. So for the most part, they're going to have an average to above average defense as far as talent is concerned. Now, maybe they don't play up to their expectations, but if they do, and I believe that they will, and last year they did a decent job of it, it was not their issue, right? Defense was not the problem with them. They could come out and have a really good defense and kind of creep up on everybody this year, and I do think they show it week one against Bryce Young and kind of throw some things at the rookie he's not used to, and they win this game. But like I said, that's my expectation. That's not Madden. I'm just most likely staying off the game. Maybe put some props out there for, like Bijan rushing, or maybe like a Drake London receiving or something like that. But we'll find out when we get there. But those are the first 3 games that I'm doing. The eventual plan is to have all 8 teams that we're tracking for the year scheduled out with Madden, right? To show you all 8 of those games and to find any deficiencies that we can. And again, we'll put some money down on it now and kind of get the head start on everybody, because nobody else is looking at these numbers yet. Everybody's waiting for the new Madden game to come out if you are trying to use this method. So if you can get the numbers now, take advantage of it before the new game comes out, before the new ratings come out, I should say. So that's it for today. Just wanted to give you guys an update on what I'm doing, what's going on, the work that's going on back here. One thing I don't ever touch on is college, right? I do dabble in it here and there, not as much as I do the NFL. But one thing that I do know is if you are interested in college football, or you know someone that's interested in college football, or you want to get into betting on college football, the Phil Steele college preview book is the equivalent of the Warren Sharp book for the NFL. I am going to include the link in the comments below, because it is something that I'm getting. I'm waiting on the arrival of it right now. And I think everybody listening to this should get that as well, if you have any interest in the college game at all, right? Or even if it's just for like fantasy for next year or whatever it is. Definitely a huge leg up to have that magazine. Last year was the first year I got it, and I can tell you the handful of games that I picked in college really came directly from that book, and it's worth what you got to spend on it. It's $30 for the magazine, and it is a damn big magazine. So take a look at that, and then lastly, I will have one more link down there, and that's going to be for my book that I just put out last week, and it's really just how to break this down. All of the spreadsheets that I just showed you, how to put it together, how to break it down, what it means, why we use the numbers we use, and kind of taking some lessons from my failures for people to not mess up the same way that I did, and to also kind of narrow down the picks to save your bankroll and to only play the winning games, right? Or the winning picks that we have generated from here, and kind of avoid the landmines. So take a look at it. The book is out now. It's all of $10. One of the two, I think you should really get it, especially now that we have like 40 days until the NFL season or preseason starts. It's a good time to kind of catch up on this stuff. Read it while you can. Use all the time you have right now to prepare for these first couple of weeks of the NFL. Because if you've done this for any time now, you know what, like I do, once it gets going, it's not going to stop. And it's going to be moving fast and furious. So you have to do all the prep work now while you have the downtime. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching the video. Leave us a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Appreciate it. And be